The era of cheap and accessible silver is now over. On January 1st, China weaponized its supply of silver. Whilst the West are still playing with paper contracts, the East have been buying up and locking the doors to the vaults. The power has now shifted from London to Shanghai. If you're new here, hi, I'm George. I'm a data analyst at a top Fortune 500 company, and I've been investing for around 5 years now. I make finance simple and easy for you to improve your financial journey. In this video, I'll tell you how China now controls the silver price, China's export restrictions, the strategic materials, the Shanghai Premium, and the weakening dollar. So first things first, we have to understand that China now holds 11% of the entire world refined silver supply. Now, that doesn't sound like a monopoly yet, only controlling 11% of the world's silver. However, here's the catch. They also control 60 to 70% of all of the silver refining methods. They are the world's refinery. And now 11% doesn't sound like an extremely high number right now, but when they're adding 1% of the world's silver every year onto their stockpile, this is going to gradually grow. So what actually happened on January 1st? Well, effectively, China has now stopped exporting any silver to the rest of the world. Starting this month, China has put extreme restrictions on selling silver to any people, countries, or companies anywhere outside of mainland China. You can no longer just buy the silver from China, get it shipped overseas, and store it in your vault. You now need a license to be able to get this. And to qualify for one of these Chinese silver export licenses, you must have a line of credit of $30 million and above, as well as an annual production capacity of at least 80 tons of refined silver. So we are talking about both refined silver and silver ore. This basically wipes out all of the small to medium refining companies, as well as just regular companies who want to buy up lots of refined silver outside of mainland China. What they are now doing is gatekeeping the metal for themselves because they know how much of a critical asset it has now become. And this brings me over to the next point of the strategic material. So, as you may recall, in late December, the Ministry of Interior from the US government classified silver as a critical mineral. This was amongst 10 other minerals that they classified. But not only a week later, China did the exact same thing. And then instead of calling it a critical mineral, they call it a strategic material. In the eyes of both the US and the Chinese government, silver is no longer just a commodity anymore. This is a national security asset. And the reason why China have put these heavy restrictions from any of their silver flowing outside of the country is because they need domestic dominance. Not only China, but the US and many others are looking at more of a domestic outlook and a domestic focus on their country. And China is no exception. They want to mine it, refine it, and use it all within inside the walls of China. And this is because they are ramping up production on their advanced military equipment, EVs, biomedical, and semiconductors within inside the country without having to rely on any other countries to buy that equipment from them. And that means they need to lock the gates on their silver reserves. However, even with these extremely high prices of silver, comment down below if you are still currently to buy at all-time highs and what price do you think that silver will be by the end of 2026. I personally think it will be in the range of $120 to $140 per ounce. And this brings me over to the next point of the Shanghai Premium. The Shanghai Gold Exchange, or the SGE, have strategically put 10% premiums on top of silver outside of London and the USA. Whilst London and the United States have been pricing silver at roughly $70 to $75 an ounce, Shanghai, China have been pricing it at $80 to $90 and even $100 per ounce in physical forms of silver. And people believe that China are being rather silly for pricing this 10-15% premium on top of any other country in the world. But what you don't realize is this is an extremely strategic move and a calculated loss. This is a calculated loss to offer instant profit to any country, any company, or any person who wants to sell their silver to China for an instantaneous 10 to 15% profit. And this strategic move is working like a charm. Most of the people, countries, and companies have been selling their physical silver to China for that easy 10 to 15% profit. For them, they don't need to hold it for the long term. They don't need to hold it for 12 months in order to get a 5 or 10% gain. They know that they can sell it there and then, and it will be paid. However, this is the thing. They are playing the long game. This small little 10% premium is absolutely nothing to the deep pockets they have. This 10% is merely just a business decision in order to corner the markets on silver and to be able to drain more and more physical silver from all different parts of the world without having to do any of the manual work alongside it. This is an extremely calculated move by Beijing. And this brings me on to the next factor of the weakening dollar. At the end of December, the Federal Reserve in the US restarted quantitative easing. Quantitative easing is also better known as money printing, and effectively this is by printing both digital and physical dollars and pumping them into the economy. Well, starting from December, they have been printing $40 billion per month and pushing that out into the economy. This is a unbelievable amount of money printing, $40 billion per month. And on top of this, there isn't even necessarily an end date that they have given. I don't know when this is going to end, but this is going to not only affect the US, but the rest of the world. In turn, when you are pumping and flooding the economy with billions upon billions of digital and physical dollars, all this does is massively weaken your currency. And the dollar is weakening with every single one that is printed. If we take a look at the Chinese yuan versus the dollar, over the last 1 year, the Chinese yuan has gotten extremely strong compared to the dollar and dipping below 7 yuan to $1 just recently. And so what does the weakening dollar mean for silver price? Well, effectively, during quantitative easing, when you are printing money out of thin air and pushing it out into the economy, what this means is there are more and more dollars or pounds going after the same hard assets. If you are able to print money digitally and also print money on paper, and you can basically print an unlimited amount of this. However, in terms of silver and gold, there is only a limited physical amount on the whole planet. You can't print silver, you can't print gold, and it's something that has to be mined and extracted and refined. So in turn, more and more of these dollars that you eventually get from your paycheck will start to be going towards more of these assets. And that's why the silver and gold price starts to continually go up, because the currency that you are holding is getting weaker, but the actual physical hard assets are becoming more valuable. People, companies, and countries that hold the largest amount of silver reserves on Earth, aka China, Mexico, and many other countries, are the ones who will benefit when the dollar, pound, and euro begins to dip in value. And for however long the money printing will continue, China has positioned itself in a really good and strategic position against the rest of the world. And this brings me over to the next point of the technology hunger within China. I experienced this firsthand. When I visited China just a couple months back, it is one of the most technologically advanced places I have ever been on Earth. I've been lucky enough to travel to 20 different countries, and China is the one that absolutely blew my mind whilst I was there. I got to go in a self-driving car, get coffee made by robot baristas, and see police robots roaming the streets. And this is just the start of how hungry China is going to be for technology in the future. And all of this was in a country of 1.4 billion people. So it really begs the question, why silver? Why this little asset? Why not copper? Why not palladium, platinum? Why not any of the other hundreds of different metals that are out there? And the first obvious choice is copper. Why not copper? It's way cheaper than silver. But the reason for choosing silver itself rather than anything else, if you look on the top 10 most conductive metals on Earth, number 1 is silver. Falling just below it is copper at number 2, but number 1, silver is the most efficient and conductive metal on Earth. And silver isn't just used in any silly little electronics like mice and keyboards. Copper will be used inside of these. Silver is used in really advanced technologies such as AI data centers, 5G towers, self-driving cars, biomedical equipment, and almost all military applications. And because when you are building a fighter jet, you are not going to be switching from silver to copper just because the price has gone up. If you are a massive country like China, you are going to continue to buy silver at whatever price it may be, because that's what that really advanced machine needs to run. And just with the sheer amount of technology that I witnessed in China, to be able to keep up with their achievement, they need a monumental amount of silver. And they are not going to be sacrificing the efficiency on all of the new advanced technologies just to save a couple pennies by buying copper. They want the best, and they are making sure that they have the silver to do this. And this brings me on to the next point of what should London and the West really do? With all of that information, you might be thinking, well, what can I do? What should the West be doing to be able to not lose out on strategic power? I don't want to just throw a bunch of information at you. I want to actually give you some recommendations on what we can do now. In my eyes, London should start rebuilding stockpiles immediately. London has the most intelligent financial engineers anywhere on the planet, and we have been able to dictate and set the price of silver for the past 40 to 50 years. And so to be able to continue to do this, we should start to rebuild our reserves in silver and make them as strong as possible so that the price of silver is still continually set here in London. Secondly, they should do matching premiums. Just like how China is giving 10 to 15% premiums on selling your silver to them, London should also offer the same thing, offering 8 to 12 pounds on every single ounce of silver that somebody sells to the LBMA, the UK government, or whichever UK-based metal companies. And this will dramatically stop the flow of silver outside of the country, and many people outside of the UK will start selling their silver to us. Thirdly, there should be some export restrictions, restricting any country or company that wants to buy millions and millions of ounces from our vaults and reserves, and effectively capping how much physical silver can be leaving the country at a time in order for the reserves not to run dry. And then fourth, there should be a secondary incentive. There are some really good companies up and down the UK that are currently recycling old e-waste and electronics and turning it from junk into silver bars and gold bars, and extracting all of the precious metals from these dumped electronics that people no longer want anymore. Instead of them going to landfill, in an ideal world, the UK government would give these companies very cheap startup loans to be able to continue to process and recycle silver and buy the silver back from them at a premium, instead of them spending all year and recycling all of that electronics to be able to then just sell the silver to another country that is paying higher. Keep it within inside of the United Kingdom, and the UK government, the Bank of England, can buy this physical silver directly from our own internal scrap companies. And this means that for a few tons of the silver, we are not reliant on imports. And this brings me on to the next point of my personal buying strategy. So in the last video, I did mention that I have been buying up digital silver as well as physical silver. Well, thank you for your advice and comments from that video, because I understand that I did contradict myself with saying that I'm going to be buying digital silver just after saying that it is not a good thing to be buying. However, I've recently learned about the stacker community, which I didn't know about before. And so I think that I may have joined that community without even knowing it, by effectively just buying lots and lots of silver ounces and Britannias and stacking them. I will still continue to hold my digital silver that I have bought many years ago and over the years, but I probably won't be continuing to add to that position. As many of you said in the comments last time, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And this is completely true. After evaluating the amount of money that I had in digital silver, I gave the question to myself of, if there isn't a buyer on the other end to actually buy this digital silver, then effectively it's worth nothing. Now, I don't know the day in which there won't ever be a buyer for that digital silver, but if that day ever did come, then effectively it goes to zero without you even realizing. So from here on out, I'm going to continue to buy physical 1 ounce silver Britannias and also some from other mints, and try and find them at the lowest premium possible. I'm currently buying it from eBay to not be able to pay the 20% VAT and have a lowest premium as possible. But let me know down in the comments if there are any other better places to get silver 1 ounce coins at the lowest premium. If you really did like that video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and give it a like. If you didn't like the video, give it a dislike and tell me why in the comments. I always want to improve my videos. Thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.